Shorts Radio. It's the fastest 2 hours on the radio, covering it all from the Fighting Tigers of LSU to the tracks of NASCAR on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Now, here's Ronnie Rance, Tommy Krysan, and Hunter McCann.
Good morning and welcome to Sports Shorts Radio on a hot Saturday afternoon in Baton Rouge, Lafayette, and Lake Charles, and all over the world on the ESPN 104.5 app. My name is Tommy Krysan. Glad to be here. Glad to have you there. Going to be joined by Hunter McCann and Ronnie Rance in just a minute. And I don't think it's ironic, but today happens to be the 15th day of August. Those of you watching on the stream, you see the 15 up in the top left corner. Obviously, Coach Bertman's number. First thing I want to do, we're going to get to Hunter McCann, but Ronnie Rance, good morning. How are you today?
I'm doing great, TK. Doing great. Yeah, but I didn't symbolism. I didn't realize that. Yeah, 15th day of the month.
Today's 15th of August. How the hell did that happen?
Yeah, and the number 15 hangs all over Baton Rouge, particularly on the wall at Pete Goldsby Field. We were glad we got a chance to honor Coach Bertman last year at the Baton Rouge Rougarou game, and we retired his number on the wall, up there, and that's pretty cool. Tommy, look, I choose to go with the positive, upbeat side of Coach Bertman, the stories, the funning, and all that, because, look, he's 88 years old. He lived a wonderful life. He had tons of love around him for all his life. I believe that his former players, I believe that his relationship with Coach Johnson, I believe that his love for his daughters kept him battling and fighting and wanting to stay alive probably longer than his body really should have. This is the guy who had health struggles for nearly 18 years, but yet the time he was 70 when he had his first heart attack to the time that he passed away at 88 years old, lived a great life, and always had people dropping by his house, taking him to lunch, calling him, visiting with him. Many, many functions and celebrations of his birthdays and all that over the years, reunions. I mean, he always had something to look forward to. He always had something to do. And finally, his body just gave out on him, and he passed away, yesterday at around 1:15 or so in the morning. And so many memories that I know you personally have. I know I have, obviously, 40 years of history with him. And anybody out there that's listening or watching, you've got a Skip Bertman story. Whether you ever met him or not, you've got a Skip Bertman story. And usually most people have met him. If you live in Baton Rouge, if you live in particularly South Louisiana, chances are over the 40-plus years he was in Baton Rouge, you encountered him, you ran into him, and probably 99% of you have a wonderful experience with Coach Bertman. I was around him constantly, where he was signing autographs and taking pictures and selfies and all that up until, really the day he died.
Well, Ronnie, as I was preparing for today's show, I'm like, we could do a show that lasted 2 weeks and not tell the same story twice.
That's true.
And you made the point about people who, maybe weren't, personally connected to LSU Visual. I got a good friend, Charlie, who met Skip 25 years ago, and they talked about hip surgery for 30 minutes. Not, like hope it goes well, but Charlie was so happy that Skip didn't know him from Adam, but Charlie asked him about hip surgery, and they had a 30-minute conversation. I mean, that's an example. That's got nothing to do with, bases loaded or the score in the fourth inning. That was just, about life.
Well, and Tommy, and I'll add on to that, and to Ronnie's point, even if you didn't know Skip personally, he didn't only have his thumbprint on the Baton Rouge community, he had both handprints on the Baton Rouge community.
That's great.
And really, if you only ever knew him as a coach or an athletic director, he still imprinted so much onto this community. 5 baseball national championships, 2 football national championships when he was AD, bringing in Nick Saban, bringing in Les Miles, and obviously the rest is history from there. And so even from a sports angle, if you only know that, he is built the winning culture here for not just basketball and football, but for all programs, where he truly believed that LSU had the capability to increase the facilities and increase the belief in the programs, and that they were capable of winning national championships, not only in baseball, but in every program. And now LSU is the powerhouse that they are today, and so many programs because of that belief and his ability to build up things around him. And so he leaves behind not only the legacy of an amazing man, but the ability to make a difference in community and be impressionable to others.
It's interesting. We've got Hunter McCann, who's in his 20s, and Tommy at a number I don't know that he's comfortable with me saying, and me somewhere in between. And we've got different ages, different decades, different experiences with Skip. And the thing that, shout out, Matt Moscona, who did a great show yesterday and had he and Ryan Theriot, and they had a bunch of guests on and stuff. And one particular interview he did with Nick Saban, who, of course, he met last year at the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. Pete Jenkins helped get that interview together. But Nick said a lot of the same things that he said last year at the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame on his show. But one of the things that's all you need to know is Nick Saban even said it, is just the facility side, right?
Yeah.
When he took over and as the coach, he looked around and said, "Look, we got the athletes, we just don't have the facilities." And at the time, Skip Bertman wasn't planning on being the athletic director at LSU. His idea and thought was, once he retired from baseball in 2001, unfortunately way too early, I think he was only 62, 63 years old when he retired. He easily could have had another 7-10 years in the tank, and made a lot more money, actually. But he was going to retire and was going to go on the public speaking tour. He'd talked to Dale Brown. Dale Brown had an agent. Dale Brown was, getting big money to go speak all around the country to businesses and not just pro teams. Not just sports teams. And both were great motivational speakers. And Skip Bertman was going to make a career doing that. And then he also thought, maybe a big company will hire me one day to be the CEO or whatever. He thought he could translate being a baseball coach into maybe being the CEO of a big company, one day. And so he was kind of had his head wrapped around that space and was going to head in that direction. And then all of a sudden LSU got into a pickle, and they couldn't agree internally with the powers that be on who the next AD was going to be after Joe Dean. And they were kind of at a stalemate. You had two camps that had two different thoughts on who and what the AD should be. And Skip Bertman was the compromise. Skip Bertman was the guy that, okay, well, we're at a bad spot here. We can't agree on the athletic director, but they could all agree on giving Skip Bertman a shot. Yeah. And, Mark Emmert went to Skip Bertman and said, "Hey, what do can you do this?" And he took it for the team, really. And they knew that he could be the one that everyone would give a shot to or agree to. And if Coach Bertman said, "This is the direction we need to go," they knew that everyone would follow him because he'd built up so much credibility and cachet over 18 years as the baseball coach. And then he got the job, and the next thing you know, there's a young coach named Nick Saban going, "Hey, we need this, we need that." And Coach Bertman was the one that could put forward all the increases in fees and the license fees. And one of the more famous stories about Coach Bertman, just to give you an idea how great he was as a public speaker and how great he was at getting people to do what they wanted. When he was AD at the beginning, they wanted to raise the prices of the RV parking spots. Yeah. The RV parking spots were like, say, $500 a parking spot or something. And it was way too cheap, for the season. And he wanted to raise it to raise it to like $5,000, right? Which was going to be crazy. Go from 500 to 5,000. People were going to lose their mind, but they were way behind the rest of the SEC in RV parking spot pricing and, revenue that they were trying to raise. And so the word gets out, it starts to trickle out amongst all the RV owners and stuff that the parking prices are going to go way, way, way up. And they're not happy about it, naturally. And so sure enough, they have this big meeting. There's Skip Bertman, there's all the assistant athletic directors and all the higher up staff. And there's all these RV owners, and they're having this big town hall meeting. And, they're coming for blood. I mean, these RV guys are not happy, right? And so Coach Bertman walks in the room, And there's the assistant ADs, Verge Osbury, Dan Radakovich, or Vincent, whoever, all around on the wall there, watch in the room. And Skip Bertman starts to talk to these guys about having to raise money and this, that, and the other, and raise prices. And he goes, and see and he goes, then the assistant athletic directors and all my other staff, they wanted to charge you guys $10,000 for RV parking. And the place goes nuts. I mean, they are about to riot. 10,000, that's ridiculous. They're going crazy. And then Coach Bertman goes, but I told them it can't be more than 5. So we're going to raise it to $5,000. That's it. And I saved you guys 5, and he gets a standing ovation. They give him a standing ovation. He raised their price from $500 a year to $5,000 a year, and they gave him a standing ovation. And on the way out, he looked over at his staff and he went, "That's the way you do it, boys."
That's where, like I said, we could tell stories for about 2 years and never tell the same one twice. But that's one of my favorites that you just told. I'd heard that one before, but it's and at this time with him passing yesterday, it's great to hear all this stuff again.
Well, look, I'm curious. I'm looking forward to hearing what Hunter McCann's perspective is. Of course, like I said, a younger generation. I think, obviously he gets the credit for what he did on the baseball diamond as the greatest baseball coach of all time. But he's arguably had the best tenure of any athletic director at LSU.
Without a doubt.
And I don't think it's hyperbole to say that he is the most important athletic figure in LSU sports history, of a history that's over 125 years of athletics. What y'all's takeaway?
I agree 100%. With all due respect to many other people that had major impact, huge impact. If you put it all down and you go from A to Z, nobody means more to LSU athletics than Skip Bertman.
No, without a doubt, he's a figure that's larger than life. It's a non-comparable in 2 cents, but to what Drew Brees is New Orleans is what I feel like Skip Bertman is to Baton Rouge. And like I said, they're not comparable in the sense of they're completely different situations. But
Skip's impact goes far beyond Baton Rouge. It goes to the rest of the SEC, and more importantly, it goes to the Raging Cajuns and what Tony Robichaux and they built over there for baseball. It goes to McNeese. It goes to UNO. He caused Southeastern. He caused everybody to say, "Hey, we can make baseball. It's the greatest game in the world. We can make more people enjoy
it." He elevated the sport of baseball when he was the coach and was on the diamond. He elevated not just at LSU, but across the entire conference, across the entire country. Then when like Ronnie alluded to, and he steps away in 2001, way too early, he's able to still step into a role that he didn't even want, but felt like he needed to do it, and had some convincing to be had there. But when he got into the role, I mean, took the bull by the horns, and it just shows you when you have a guy with that talent and the able to see talent and go get a guy like Nick Saban. And I'm not taking anything away from Nick Saban when I say this and his ability to turn LSU around and win in 2003, but having Skip Bertman be the guy that orchestrated that just proves that the guy just eats, sleeps, and breathes national championships. He can translate to a whole different sport and still bring in 2 championships in football, and he will be greatly missed for his influence on sports, but how wonderful of a man that he has been. And we're going to talk a lot about that the next 2 hours.
We got a tremendous lineup of guests today that we're going to get to because we're going to break now and come back with Lynn Rollins. Everybody knows Lynn Rollins, but we'll also speak to Joel Davis. We'll speak to Paul Maneri, Dan Canterbury, Blair Barbier. We're working on a few others. So we got to get to a break looking at the clock. It's August 15th. Keep that in mind. This is Sports Shorts Radio, Baton Rouge, Lafayette, and Lake Charles with Ronnie Rance, Hunter McCann, and myself. We'll be right back from the Walk-Ons in Brewley. Stay with us. Radio here on this Saturday morning tribute to Skip Bertman, number 15. Those of you watching at YouTube, Facebook, and X, and this thing will be there, tonight, tomorrow, Monday. If you missed it and you want to watch it, just go to Sports Shorts by Ronnie Rance YouTube, or go to Talking Sports with TK Enterprises YouTube, or any of our Facebook pages, and you will be able to see it. We're joined by Lynn Rollins in a minute, but we remind you we're live and in color today from the Walk-Ons in Bruley. They're going to open the door here at 11 o'clock. Great place to come watch sports on TV, get some great food and drink and a cold beer, whatever you need, here at the Walk-Ons in Bruley. Going to open the doors about 11 a.m. Don't forget riveroflifecapsules.com. Took my River of Life capsules this morning. I'm feeling great. Court Street Cafe in Port Allen, the Island Golf Course in Plaquemine, among the many people that are part of the Sports Shorts Radio team. Ronnie Rance is going to rejoin us in just a minute. Got Hunter McCann here. I'm Tommy Chrysan. Like and share this show, please, no matter which platform you're watching it on. That'll help. Right now, we want to say good morning to someone everybody knows, Lynn Rollins. Lynn, good morning. How are you?
Thank you for having me on the show, even under such dire circumstances, but it's wonderful to be with you guys.
Oh, thank you, Lynn. And, Ronnie, a little earlier in the show, decided maybe we'll take a positive theme, the funny stories, the good stories, and that kind of stuff while talking about Coach Bertman. Because, Lynn, I made the comment that we could do a show for nonstop for 2 weeks and never repeat the same story. But, Lynn, as you think of Skip Bertman and your memories of Skip and your long-time relationship with him since the day he got to Baton Rouge, give me a funny story or two, or something that when you're sitting around with your friends and they go, hey, give me a Skip Bertman story. Which one do you go with, Lynn?
Well, some of them might not be particularly appropriate for today, but I'll tell you, Tommy, to be honest, when I look back over the long-term relationship that I had with him and that so many people did, to be honest, the thing that keeps coming forefront to my mind is his ability as a philosopher, if you will, with the now well-known thing that he wrote down and he said and he referred to, and he lived his life by it. And I'm going to quote it here because it really stuck with me. And most baseball coaches, most coaches of college sports, certainly would not be able to pen this, would not think this, but this is the way he lived his life. And many of you have heard it before, but it's worth repeating. Anything you vividly imagine, ardently desire, sincerely believe, and enthusiastically act upon absolutely must come to pass. And to me, that's the philosophy that he used in not only winning baseball games on the field, but the relationship with fans, the upgrading of the program, because he started with nothing. I mean, many of us don't remember those days. A crowd of 500 was considered absolutely humongous, and all of that obviously changed very quickly. But it took a guy with this philosophy and that work ethic, and he was a process guy well before Nick Saban. So that's what I remember about him mostly. Not the championships, not the funny stories, not the relationships, but the way he approached the job in a way that nobody had ever approached it like that before.
The way he approached life.
Lynn, Ronnie here, man. So many stories you and I have, but I gotta start with one of our favorite stories of all time. So Lynn, I'll give the quick version to set it up, and then I want you to tell the story. So Lynn and I first met in Alexandria in the late 80s. He was doing local TV and all over there. And I'm playing football at Menard High School. Lynn's doing play-by-play for that. Was it the Axe Network? Was that what it was?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, called the Axe Network. I can remember Lynn sitting on top of a van doing a game as the play-by-play guy, like I think Menard Buckeye or something. But anyway, so that's when we first met. Then we formed a friendship when I played a couple months for the Alexandria Aces. He was the play-by-play guy for the Alexandria Aces, and I always thought Lynn did a great job and everything. And so in fall of 1997, when I'm starting to put together the Jumbo Sports Network and come up with the idea And Lynn was one of the first people I called and about doing play-by-play. At the time, not many people in the state of Louisiana were great play-by-play guys, and I thought he had an iconic voice. And Lynn used to do some games for LSU, fill in for Jim Hathorne when he had basketball conflicts and stuff. So he'd done that for a number of years. So Lynn and I started on this adventure of trying to do the Jumbo Sports Network together, and so now we get to 1999. 98, we do like a handful of games. 99, now we're going to attempt to do all 10 Sunday SEC series. So like a game of the week, kind of the old-fashioned game of the week. So we did 5 home games, 5 road games. First one of the first road game we ever did was at Arkansas, LSU at Arkansas. So Lynn and I'll let Lynn tell it at some point, but I'm going to set it up for this point. We fly in on Saturday, get to the game. LSU's playing Arkansas. Get to the game and be halfway through the game. We watch the game. When the game ends, we go down to the dugout. And we visit with Coach Bertman in the dugout. We're all excited. Lynn and I are sharing a room at the La Quinta, it's a tight budget. And, we're planning to eat at Denny's because that's what, La Quinta means, next to Denny's. And so, we're planning to eat at the Denny's next door at the Grand Slam. We're happy. We're fine with that. And Coach Bertman's visiting with us in the dugout.
I wasn't, but that's the way you remember.
Yeah. Okay. So we're talking to Coach Bertman about the game the next day. We're getting some tidbits. He's excited. We're going to broadcast the game back to Louisiana and everything. And so he goes, "Hey boys, what are you guys doing for dinner tonight?" And we're like, we don't have any plans. He goes, "Oh, why don't you come by the Hilton?" He's staying at the nice hotel. Come by the Hilton. We got a great restaurant at the Hilton, and take he goes, and we'll go to dinner, grab some dinner. I'm like, and Lynn and I are fired up, dude. We're like, heck yeah, this is what it's going to be like. We're going to be on the road. We're going to be having dinner with Coach Bertman. He's going to pick up the tab, like Lynn and I are like, bro, we have hit the big time, Coach. I mean, this is what we thought it was going to be like. And here we are. We're going to dinner with Coach Bertman. And Lynn, I'll let you take it from there.
Well, that's a pretty good setup. And we were excited, and I'm already mentally perusing the menu, for the biggest steak, the lobster entree to go with it, and everything else. And we figured, this is going to be a $200 bill, easily in those days for us three, and we're going to be great. So the waiter comes by. It's late. It's unfortunately a little later than we would have wanted, but we go to dinner. And Skip Bertman is looking at the menu, and he says, "Hey, here you got a good patty melt here." And Ronnie and I are kind of looking at each other. Well, that's a far cry from the steak we were expecting. And the waitress says, "Well, sir, it's a little late. That's on our lunch menu, but we really don't serve patty melts at night." And he says, "Well, hey, we've come from Louisiana. I hear you've got a great patty melt. It's world famous. That's what I want if you can get it for me." So she says, "Okay." And Ronnie is just slumping at the next seat because he had already looked at the menu and was deciding, can I top $100 with one meal? So Ronnie goes, "Well, patty melt, huh? Yeah, they got a great one." So Ronnie says, "Well, I'll take the club sandwich." And I kicked Ronnie under the table and I said, "Ma'am, I'm going to start with the shrimp, the jumbo shrimp cocktail, followed by
the orange roughy. You got orange roughy.
Followed by the orange roughy stuffed with with crab meat and etouffee on top. And Skip, you can see the wheels turning in his eyes. I mean, you could see him adding the price as I continue to add to the list. It turned into like a 6 or 8 course meal for me. My bill alone was way, way more than Ronnie's and Skip's combined. And at the end, the waitress comes by and she says, dessert, gentlemen. Skip says, "No, Ronnie wanted to so bad, but he didn't." I said, "Yes, that's great to have. How about the baked Alaska with a side of ice cream and a chocolate malt to go, if you don't mind."
Yeah.
And Skip's just rolling his eyes and gets the bill. So not long afterward, he says, "Rollins," he says, "you're pretty good, but you're never going to make the Phillies." And he said, you're never going to be like the announcer for the Phillies. Ronnie, you've got a chance. Now, you've got a real chance. Rollins, no. That was his way of saying never again.
Yeah.
We never got invited to dinner again.
Never.
That was it. That was the one time. We never. After we were on the road many times after that over the years, and never.
Don't you wish you had cashed in that night, Ronnie?
Absolutely.
You knew Lynn was going to do that.
Yeah, Skip went. Skip was like, he went, dessert too, huh, Lynn? Like he literally said that. Oh man, I think actually Lynn got the story wrong. I had a chicken sandwich. I didn't have the club.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, God forbid.
Yeah, but he it was the best because he was so complimentary. He wanted to know everything. Over the years to the day he died, he'd always his big thing with his former players were, he always wanted to know what you were doing. Whatever your job was, what you're doing, and inevitably he'd ask you, you making any money doing that? Are you making any money doing that? I mean, and he said, you guys do a great job, in this baseball TV stuff. You guys are really good. You and Rollins, Rance, you got a chance here. Like you can really do this. Like you're good. Like you can make a living, doing the color stuff. He goes, hey, Rollins, I mean, you're good too, but like the Phillies aren't going to call. See, I mean, that, right? Like he wanted to make sure Lynn was in his place.
Yeah.
So to this day, Lynn, every once in a while, about once a year, send me an email, and at the end, he'll put, Philly still hadn't called.
That's awesome.
Lynn, listen, man, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate you, man. Lynn joining us from Auburn, Alabama, is home for the last, 5-6 years. And of course, last saw Lynn at the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremony. And of course, Skip is a Louisiana Sports Hall of Famer. And Lynn, one last thing before I let you go, just a quick yes/no on this. Skip Bertman, greatest sports figure in the history of LSU.
If you force me into a yes or no, I say yes.
Who would be
because of the comprehensive impact that he had, not only from what he started with was nothing, with no expectation, an afterthought, quite honestly. And then of course the baseball dynasty, and he literally changed the game in the college ranks.
Yeah.
I think he could have been a Major League Baseball manager with great success. He always said no. I politely disagree with him. But then you go on to his tenure as an athletic director as well, again charting new water, new ground, going in places where people had never gone before. It was necessary for him to do that. Not always popular, but certainly laid the foundation for what the game and school has become today. So yes, the answer is yes.
All right, Lynn Rollins, thank you so much. Appreciate it for joining us. We will take a step aside, take a break. When we come back, Joel Davis will join us from Wooden Haven Furniture Company for our weekly report. And I want to get the takeaway from Joel Davis, a guy who once made his high school baseball team at St. Paul High School, but yet quit. We'll talk to Joel Davis next. Don't go anywhere. Sports Shorts will continue live from the Bruley Walk-Ons right after this.
This is Sports Shorts Radio.
Welcome back, everyone. Ronnie Rance here with you over at the Bruley Walk-Ons, the best walk-ons in the whole chain, right there about 5 minutes from downtown Baton Rouge. You take Highway 1 South right across from Bruley High School, you're there. I mean, you can get to this walk-ons if you're in Baton Rouge. If you're Pete Goolsby Field where the Rougarou play, you can probably get here quicker than you can the others with the Baton Rouge traffic. And fantastic stuff, open 7 days a week, 11 o'clock in the morning. They open for lunch. And where else can you see a Ronnie Ranch mural on the wall across from Alex Bregman? I mean, they only here at the Bruley Walk-Ons, about 2 miles from old Buzzy Heidel's house. But stop on by, the best fried shrimp. I know you get the blackened.
Yeah, blackened chicken or the blackened tuna is good, really good. The blackened redfish, I'm sorry, is really good here.
Yes, fantastic stuff. All right, we're gonna audible right here because Joel Davis is, I don't know, got a delivery of furniture or something over there right now going on it. But I got a pleasure of being joined by old teammate of mine, a guy I played 3 seasons with in Baton Rouge, and a Catholic High graduate, LSU national, multinational champion, and of course now one of the best sports psychologists in the world. Brett McCabe joins us. What's going on, Brett?
What's going on, Ronnie? Hope you're doing well today, and not a day that we all love to have to talk about, but a day that gives us a lot of positive memories and everything.
Well, Brett, I wanted to get you on because you have such a unique perspective and different kind of relationship with Coach Bertman than many of us had, and and look, I choose to tell the funny stories and the happy stories and all that kind of stuff. I mean, Coach Bertman won. He lived to be 88 years old, and had a great life and had so much love and from former players and neighbors and administrators, and just people just loved the man. And he was constantly bombarded with visitors and lunches and you name it. He lived enough life for 2 people. And so, Brett, your relationship with him, you were a walk-on pitcher from Catholic High, were a part of a couple national championship teams, and you were really, I like to say, a self-made man. If there was a depth chart, you came from the bottom to the top type of thing. And by the last couple of years of your career, were an integral part of that LSU pitching staff. But the part I want to focus on is, what you're doing now and how Coach Bertman played a role in that. I'll tell the story of my experience, and you can jump in with yours. Coach Bertman was famous for opening up his door when you were walking by the office and having you go get him lunch. He would open that door and go, "Ooh, Jumbo, where you going, big guy?" And Coach, I'm headed to Wendy's. "Ooh, Wendy's. What about Inga's? What do you think about Inga's?" Inga's has got pretty good, right? Yeah, Coach, Inga's is great. And so, I think about Inga's. And he would give you his order at Inga's, and then he'd give you money. And of course, it was usually $1 or $2 less, than what the price was, right? And so you go to Inga's. But you did that once, right? Like after he got you the one time, made you go where you didn't want to go, shorted you a little bit on the bill. You kind of, next time you're walking by and the door opens, you don't hear him. You just keep going. Right? But Brett McCabe, he did the same thing, but it was different. He didn't necessarily have Brett go to Inga's. He asked Brett if he was going to the library, and I'll let you pick up and tell your story, Brett.
Yeah, so I was, to your point, I was I came up from the rumbles, right? Of you're 3 years away, you're not as good as the other guys coming in your class. You may be good enough down the road, but right now you're not, and you've got to use other skills to succeed until your physical elements pick up. And one of those is the way I thought, and the way I had to think, and the way I had to go about doing things. And so in one of the years, he said, "Look, I always find these stories that I like to tell, the Oksana Baiuls, the stories that knocking Roger Bannister, being in Hanoi Hilton and knocking and talking." And so he said, "Hey, look, since you're one of the only guys here that knows where the library is, I want you to go to the library and find some stories that I can use." Okay, now I want everyone to listen to this and think, it's like, you don't have Chat GPT back in the day.
Right.
You didn't have Google to say, "Find me motivational stories."
Right.
And I'm like, what in the heck am I supposed to do? Like, I'm just going to go through the Dewey Decimal System and look for motivational stories. Like,
Right.
so of course I do it, and I go and I start looking and I start trying to find stories, bring them back to them. But one of the things that story kind of, reiterated for me was, the thing about Coach that was so brilliant, and I don't think I've heard it captured a whole lot, which is Coach coached each player uniquely.
He did.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
He knew where everybody was. He saw where he thought they could go, and with a system around them. And if they could find the belief and do the work, he saw uniqueness. I still use the critical elements that we used as pitchers to fix mechanics when I'm working with players.
Mm-hmm.
And yet Scott Schultz, the all-time winningest pitcher for the longest time at LSU, and he was 5'10", 5'11", whatever. You and I were 6'5".
A generous 5'11".
Well, I'm just, I'm sure he's listening to this, and I don't want him to get upset. But when I would come in relief of Scott, his stride was longer than mine. And he never forced us to do the same thing. No pitcher threw the same. And that was the same about the psychological development. And that's what really spurred me on. Now, the real story is he challenged me in a game and told me I wasn't good enough to play and that I had to learn to find it. And when I did, I finally broke through. And it took 2 games of being just embarrassed against Texas Christian University the first year you were gone. But it was then that I realized the power of what the mental side can be. And it put me on my journey. And I was very thankful. And I also, there's another Bertman person who meant the world to me. It was Lisa Bertman, his daughter, who was also a psychologist. She was my mentor in grad school, and she passed away way before. I mean, went through a very difficult
I
stuff.
believe.
Yeah. And Lisa meant as much to me as Skip meant to me. And so help me frame that. And I had a conversation with Coach Saban last night, and we were talking about Skip and laughing. And I said, Coach always would tell me, make sure you tell Coach that I had the system before he had the process. And Coach Saban always goes, he just gives a little,
right.
But then he goes, I did that Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame and met that guy Jumbo. That's what he said. And he goes, man, the stories. He said, I hope my players talked about me the same way. And that's what Coach knew. He knew us. And he'd walk around that outfield during batting practice, like, please don't come over here. Please don't come over here. Please don't come over here. And he'd come over and be like, how's your mom and dad? And how's this? And you were like, am I, what's going on here? But he was learning about you. He was spending time with you. And whether you lead people or guide people or teach people, whatever it is, know the person first. And that was a Skip thing.
I want to, so at what point, so now for those that don't know, you have a company called The Mind Side. Why don't you give the quick takeaway of what you're doing over the last, few decades?
Yeah. So I'm a clinical psychologist, and about 15 years ago, I opened up a sports and performance coaching, organizational coaching practice. And I'm the sports psychologist for the University of Alabama, have been for 13 years, and work very intimately with the football program and basketball program and other sports. I work for the Milwaukee Brewers as their psychologist. I work with some of the top players on the PGA
How
Tour.
many
and then I coach a lot
professional golfers do you work with?
Right now, about 9.
Mm-hmm. Biggest name
so
of that group would be who?
Well, you got Chris Gotterup, Billy Horschel, Cam Young, John Rahm. So a variety of different ones. Yeah, they tend to do pretty well. But you know what's so funny about that, Ronnie? What do I use? I use the stuff we learned from Skip.
Yeah. So I want for people to realize that it's go, well, why is a guy from Catholic High and Baton Rouge and working with the Alabama athletic department? Tell the story of Les Miles and when you called him.
Okay, this will make people fun. So when I was on internship, I did my internship up in Rhode Island and at Brown, and we do like a residency. And I called Skip and I said, look, Coach, this mental stuff is blowing up within the universities. You need to put a psychologist on full time. And he goes, oh, Brad, I'd love to, but it's just too expensive. A couple of years later, after doing some work in corporate pharma, I called LSU and I called a couple of our friends. I said, hey, look, I would love to come back and help. I've got some experience. I know what I'm doing. Love to help. And they said, just, not really feeling it. And then I tried to get in with the football program because I was living and dying with the purple and gold, and I just couldn't get in. And then I realized that Les Miles had me blocked on Twitter. I'm not sure why. And then I got a call from the University of Alabama basketball program, and Anthony Grant, who was the coach at the time, asked me to come in and help. And the first game we went to was down in New Orleans at the SEC tournament. And I'm in the plane, and he pulls me up and goes, "Are you okay to come down here? Like, do I have to worry about your safety being on the Alabama team plane?" And I was like, "No, we're good." And then over the next couple of years, Alabama football just started using me a lot and been very involved with the quarterbacks, kickers, leadership, team dynamics, and stuff like that. Now, Coach always had another guy by the name of Dr. Rosen, who's the real guy. I just supported Dr. Rosen. But then all of a sudden, when Coach Orgeron got the job, they called and they said, "Can you?" I'm like, "No, I can't." I mean,
Yeah.
And I said, "Y'all turned me down. Like, you just flat out ignored it and
right?
alum."
Like you were
I'm
exclusive at that point with Alabama. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
behind the scenes, I heard that, Les Miles was asked about it, and it was like, "Ew, we don't need that stuff." Like he didn't know what it was. He didn't know.
Yeah, he didn't know what it was.
He just didn't understand it. And then by the time they figured it out, and Coach O came along, and now they start to figure it out a little bit. It was too late. Brett was already locked up, winning national championships with Alabama.
The two greatest coaches to ever coach in their individual sports leverage the mental game than anybody else.
Yeah.
Okay? And Coach Saban was a studier of human behavior and would call any expert there was and say, "Give me something."
Yeah.
Like, I need to say, he never said, "This is the way I do it." He said, "Tell me what you do." And, I brought in guys like Michael Phelps or J.J. Watt and, into the program, and Coach is the guy in the front row taking all the notes. Because he just wanted to expose, and Coach DeBoer is the same way. And it's funny, Scott Cochran, who was the strength coach there for so long that we all know and love, he would walk by me in the training room and look at me and go, "Who you for, my man? Who you for?" I said, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "In first week of November, who you for?" I said, "Buddy, we work for Alabama." He goes, "But I know what your blood is." And I said, "Well, it's the same blood as yours, my friend." But, listen, it's a great, I absolutely love working for the University of Alabama. And honestly, Ronnie, it's a blessing that I do, because it's hard to work for your alma mater.
Yeah. Yeah.
At Alabama, I work and I serve the people I work with, and they've embraced me. And I had to speak to the athletic department yesterday, and Greg Byrne introduced me as like, there's only one knock on his resume, and we'll let that one go. And it's always fun banter, and we have a great time with it. There's a lot of LSU guys, men and women, in the athletic department,
right.
Jeff Springer in the equipment room, and so forth. And we have a great time with it.
Lastly, Brett, when you think back on your time with Skip Bertman, whether it was from the high school days at Catholic High and going to his camp or whatever, to the last time you talked to him, is there one moment in time that stands out more than another?
I was raised by some amazing parents. My dad was 20 years Air Force. My mom was an amazing leader in person. But he was a catalyst for me to take a different path in my life and get me to believe in myself. Every time I met with him, I knew that he was invested in me. He and I had a very special bond, and I don't know, hope everyone else had that bond with him. I thank him every day. I lost my dad 15 years ago, and it's one of those feelings that I feel today. But it's just to empower somebody to believe in what they're capable of doing is a very wonderful gift. And he gave me that, and I know he gave a lot of us that, but I know what he gave me. He was hard. I said yesterday, he was an SOB, but he was our SOB, right?
Right.
Coach had an amazing way in the public. Everyone's like, "Oh, he's a big old teddy bear." I'm like, "Yeah, that grizzly will tear you apart if he had the chance." But he was ours, and our brotherhood that we have is special. I don't know many other programs that have it. We're a fraternity. Alabama football has a fraternity called Bama Phi Psi. We have the same thing. And it's a special bond that is between us. And we've been there, we've felt it, and he created that unity. And I think it's the greatest. He's a revolutionary human being that made an impact on so many.
Well, it's so cool that you're really kind of living his legacy. You're passing on a lot of the knowledge that he imported in you to others, and that's really, really cool. Brett, thanks for the time, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Y'all have a good one. Thank you.
Right, Brett McCabe right there joining us.
Yeah, Ron, I was just going to say before we go to break, I'm going to have to head out of here a little early today, but I just want to give my final thoughts on Skip, tell a quick short story. But I remember the first time I met him, I was in college. I was lucky enough to be working at ESPN 104.5, and I was the the board producer, the board op for Hold the Rope with Skip and Cano. And I remember most of the interactions between in the show was between me and Dan Canaveri. But I remember on some occasions if there was a change in the show or something needed to be different or they wanted to do something special, neither Skip nor Cano ever really called or texted. I would just Dan would call me and say, "Hey, meet us at Sammy's Grill on this day. On the show ran Sunday nights. Meet us there Wednesday or something. We could talk about it." Well, I remember the first I was driving over there in college. I remember being so nervous because I was going to meet Skip Bertman. So nervous. And I was like, it's going to be so cool, everything. I went in there, shook his hand and everything. Dan's talking to me about what they want to do with something. And Skip didn't say much until I'm about to leave. And Skip goes, "You want something to eat? You hungry? You want to sit down, have a meal?" And everything. I was like, "Oh, no, it's good, Coach. Just being respectful. I'm good. It's great to meet you," everything like that. Well, that happened a few times over the course of the show over the next few months. And I remember, like, the third time I came around, same thing, everything, talking with Coach. And Coach says, "Hey, you want something to eat? You want to sit and have a meal?" And I once again turn it down, and he looks me up and down. And Cano's working on something. He looks up and down and goes, "I don't believe you don't eat food." He said, "I want you to sit down and stop being so nice and eat a meal with us." And I said, "Okay, Coach." So I was gonna pull up a chair and everything, and I sat down. And I just remember it. And that was my real first interaction with him. The whole time while we're eating, Dan didn't say much because Skip was talking the whole time, and he's just asking me about me.
Right.
And he's just asking me about what I want to do, my passion, where I grew up, everything I want to do. And I just couldn't believe how kind of a man he was. And after that, I had the opportunity, luckily, to end up having a great relationship with him over the last few years of his life. And when I saw him, he always remembered me, always talked to me, always asked me if I had gotten where I want to be yet and where I want to go next. And I can't even, you and Ronnie, you were the first person I thought of yesterday morning when I found out.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't even imagine how you felt because it truly felt like I had lost a grandfather, and that's the first way it felt for me. And I will forever be grateful for the opportunity that God gave me to know such a wonderful man that had such a loving heart for the people around him in the game of baseball and sports in general. And he will be greatly missed and loved by this community, hopefully forever.
Well, that's well said. Good stuff right there. Appreciate it, Hunter. And we'll be back with you next week. All right, we're over here at the Bruley Walk-Ons. We're going to take a break, come back, final segment of hour number one. Are we going to have Joel with us? I think he just texted he's free. So we'll have Joel Davis next when we return here on Sports Shorts on ESPN Lake Charles, Lafayette, and Baton Rouge.
Now back to Sports Shorts Radio.
Welcome back, everyone. Ronnie Rance here with you alongside Tommy Krysan. We're over at the Bruley Walk-On, so just 5 minutes from downtown Baton Rouge. We've got a little bit of a short segment right here, so we decided to punt Joel Davis to hour number 2. So Joel will join us at about 11:45. This is what our lineup coming up in hour number 2, 11 o'clock. Paul Maneri, former national champion coach who Skip Bertman hired, will join us. We'll also hear from Dan Canterbury, who is a part of 6 national championships with Coach Bertman, 1 at Miami, 5 at LSU as a player, assistant coach, GA, you name it. He probably had the longest relationship of anyone outside of Sandy Bertman. And so we're going to talk to Dan Canterbury about, some of the amazing stories and times they had and the impact they had together on LSU baseball. 11:30, one of the all-time greats, 2-time national champion, captain of the 2000 LSU championship team, and one of the fan favorites, Blair Barbier. He will join us at 11:30, and at 11:45 that all-star lineup will come to a crashing halt with Joel Davis at 11:45. JD will talk to him, but crazy story this week. I know we were spending a lot of time on this Skip Bertman tribute, but what's going on with Jaden Daniels?
I mean, it's so bizarre. You and I talked about it on the air yesterday. It's so bizarre, so crazy. And because of social media, you don't know exactly what is 100% accurate and what's kind of accurate and what's not accurate. But the bottom line is it's one of the more bizarre stories, especially if you throw the timing of it in. He's in the camp with the Washington Commanders. College football's 3 weeks away. It's just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, a cease and desist letter is real. Everything else, whatever. But the fact that actually got sent to LSU and nobody in the Jaden Daniels camp said, hey, let's slow this down, is nuts. And so Jaden Daniels is getting helped out in Louisiana with the Skip Bertman passing because everybody's talking about that. We'll be back with hour number 2, Sports Shorts Live from the Bruley Walk-On.
This hour brought to you by Spencer Callahan Injury Lawyers, LA 21-12681. Offices in Baton Rouge. Welcome back to Sports Shorts Radio.
Welcome back, everyone. Hour number 2 of Sports Shorts live from the Bruley Walk-Ons, just 5 minutes across the Mississippi River Bridge, across from Bruley High School. Come on by. One of the best walk-ons in the whole chain. They open at 11 o'clock, 7 days a week. Going to get the lemon butter chicken today. They also have fantastic black and red fish, and the best fried shrimp anywhere is at Walk-Ons. We got a great show for you. Hour number 2, hour number 1. Appreciate our special guests that we had with us. We talked to Lynn Rollins, the voice of LSU baseball. We also talked to Brett McCabe, Dr. Brett McCabe, the former LSU pitcher who has one of the best sports psychologists in the world. We had him on telling some stories and others as well. Right now, we're joined by a very special guest, Louisiana Sports Hall of Famer, and a guy who Coach Bertman hired, and he made him look like a genius because he won a national championship just 3 years after he took the job. Paul Maneri joins us. How you doing, Coach?
I'm doing okay considering, Ronnie. How are you?
I'm good. I watched a lot of the interviews that you did yesterday on different news outlets, and obviously those of us that knew him best, you being one of them, have had a chance over the last 24 hours plus to, reflect on so many memories. I want to go back to, Coach, when you grew up in Miami and your dad being a legendary coach in junior college. Do you remember the first time you ever met Skip Bertman?
I do, Ronnie, and I know how special Skip is to you, and I know you feel like you've known him forever. But I actually met Skip when I was probably about 7 years old. He brought Mickey Mantle into Miami Beach to do a clinic, and it was like the biggest thing ever, over on Miami Beach. You've heard him tell the story about Mickey Mantle, I'm sure, that weekend. Yeah. But I actually have a picture with Mickey Mantle from that weekend when I was probably 7 years old. I think that was probably around 1965 or so. Anyway, so that was the day that I met Skip Bertman. My dad explained to me how Skip Skip was like the mayor of Miami Beach. Okay, Miami Beach is like a little island off of Miami, and there was a ballpark there called Flamingo Park. It's now known as Skip Bertman Field. Mm-hmm. But Skip would do so many things to promote baseball in the area, and he started with the youth league programs there. And I mean, he was actively involved, and he started nurturing these kids at a young age to grow in the game of baseball. And then as well, he was also the high school coach at Miami Beach High School. So all those kids that nurturing through the youth league program eventually grow to be teenagers and go to school at Miami Beach High, and they play for him. But that was the first time I ever met Skip. I remember it very vividly. My dad always had great admiration for what Skip was doing over there. And so we'd sit around the dinner table. My normal dinner table with my family was my dad talking about great coaches in the country. Mm-hmm. And I remember him talking about Skip quite frequently, even though he was a high school coach at the time.
Right. Did you went on to play high school at Columbus High School, one of the powerhouse Catholic schools over in Florida. Did you ever play against Skip? Like, did Columbus play against Beach?
Yeah, absolutely. We played him every year, and Skip was the coach, and I played against him probably. I can't remember exactly which year Skip left Beach to. Skip was then going to become the head coach at the Miami-Dade Community College campus that they called Downtown Campus at that time. And he had left Beach High to that fall and was going through fall practice. And at the end of fall practice was when Ron Polk left the University of Miami as an assistant. And so Ron Frazier asked Skip to join his staff as the associate head coach. So he actually never coached a game in junior college, but I can't remember exactly what year that was, but I know I played against Skip's teams for at least 2 or 3 years of my high school career. I was telling a funny story to Chris Guillotte this morning. when Chris and I were visiting and talking about Skip, and I was so lucky, Ronnie, to have lunch with Skip last Friday. We went to a restaurant and just sat for hours and reminisced a bunch of things, and it a chance really to for the umpteenth time how much he meant to me in my life and all the things he'd done for me, and I thanked him profusely again, just like you have a gazillion times. But anyway, I recapitulated the story with Skip, and he remembered it. We were playing in the summer. It wasn't the spring season, so now it's summer ball, okay? But you played with your high school and against other high school teams, but it was considered summer ball. And I'm standing in the batter's box at Flamingo Park, batting right-handed. Skip's in the third base dugout, and when I was walking to the batter's box, I kind of glanced at him and nodded, as if to say hello. And Skip is sitting next to a kid. And so they're probably 10 yards away, maybe 15 yards away from the batter's box. And when I'm standing in the batter's box, I could hear Skip talking to the player sitting next to him. And he said, "No, I want you to watch this boy that's up to bat right now. His mechanics as a hitter are perfect. He's the son of a coach. His only problem is he's not strong enough to be a good hitter." I think I had to call timeout and step out of the batting and compose myself.
Coach Manera, Tommy Christ saying, "Hey, that's a beautiful story. That's one of the ones I hadn't heard, Coach."
Hey, Tommy. Oh yeah. Well, our families became so close. My dad won the national championship in 1964, and three of the key players on his team, like really great players, came from Miami Beach High School that Skip had sent to him, the shortstop, the pitcher, and the first baseman. And so my dad's national championship was the result of Skip sending players to his program. And so our families became close. My dad really loved Skip, and vice versa, I believe. Our whole family went over to Miami Beach, Skip's house, and a couple months later, his family over to our house in Miami. And, here's another little story I've said many times in speeches. When I grew up in Miami, we had a batting cage in our backyard. Dad being a coach had access to all that type of stuff. And so I would go out in the backyard and I'd hit every day. And so one day when Skip came over, I was like maybe 13, 14 years old. And Skip said, "Hey, let me go out in the backyard with you and watch you hit and work with you a little bit." So I went back in the backyard, and Skip's working with me. And I tell people that I'm here today to dispel the myth that Skip was a great hitting coach or a great coach. Because if you had ever seen me hit and you knew Skip worked with me, that would dispel the myth that Skip was a good coach.
That's great. That's a good one.
We're visiting with Coach Paul Maneri. Coach, when you that conversation, the conversation that put it over the top for you, that you had with Coach Bertman when you were at Notre Dame, he's looking for a coach. You guys are talking. What was there anything in particular that he said? What were the instructions or whatever that he kind of gave you when you guys were making that decision to leave Notre Dame to come to LSU?
Well, Ronnie, I'm sure people that are listening will find this hard to believe, but it was a very difficult decision for me to leave Notre Dame to come to LSU. Look, I loved LSU from when I played here. I loved the idea of working with Skip. It was, jumping from a school that I loved, but into the baseball hot, the frying pan of the SEC. There were a lot of things to consider, but because I loved working at Notre Dame so much, it was really hard for me to leave. And I actually had turned down 5 other jobs in the SEC while I was at Notre Dame. I won't mention the schools, but when Skip called and said, "Look, why don't you just come down and let's talk about it?" And I said, "Skip, I'll come down and visit with you. Karen and I will come down, but let's agree on 2 points. You haven't offered me the job yet, and I haven't accepted the job." And he said, "Okay, that sounds good." So we flew down, and I hunkered up with Skip in his office for quite a while and talked about a lot of different things. But basically, I said to Skip, Skip, you're the greatest coach of all time, and I know you're a great athletic director as well. But I know you need to get this one right, because your legacy is a little bit at stake if the new coach comes in and falls flat on his face. And quite frankly, I have a good job and I love my job, and I don't really want to leave Notre Dame. So we both need to know that this is right for us. Well, in the midst of that conversation, Skip told me his story. He told me his story that he wanted to become the coach at the University of Miami. Ron Frazier wanted to become the athletic director. But Howard Snellenberger told Skip that Ron Frazier was never going to become the athletic director. And so Skip knew that he was never going to become the head baseball coach of Miami until Ron Frazier decided he'd had enough. And that wasn't in the foreseeable future. And so Skip took the job at LSU for less money, like $20,000 left. I think he was probably making $50,000 at Miami, and LSU offered him like $30,000 or $35,000 to take the job here. And so Skip explained to me that, look, when I came here, there was no winning history and tradition. The facility was outdated. It was kind of decrepit, and it was a lot of work to be done. There was nobody cared about baseball in the SEC except maybe Mississippi State because of Ron Polk's willpower, and kind of shoving it down the administration's throat to force them to take baseball serious. He said, so I took a gamble, and look how it paid off for me. He says, you got to believe in yourself. I want you to be the coach here, and I think you're the right guy. I know you're the right guy. He said, but you can only do this if you really have unequivocal belief in yourself. He said, it's not going to be an easy job. He said, but I'm going to let you. I'm not going to. I'll be here for advice and counseling, but I'm not going to be, the parachute athletic director hanging over the program and telling you what to do. And when he said all that stuff, and even told me about his own decision to come to LSU, it's kind of what sold me on it, Ronnie. Because my wife was back at the hotel. We were going to stay the night at the Lod Cook, and I went back to the hotel, and she was there, and I said, she says, well, what do you want to do? And I said, I think I want to take the job. And she had a very unique response. She said, why? I said, well, I'll tell you why, Karen, because if I don't do it, I'll regret it for the rest of my life that I didn't do it.
Yeah, you'll always wonder what if. Yeah.
Yep, next spring on Memorial Day, when the selection show is on ESPN, and I look up there, and if LSU's in the regionals and Notre Dame, I'll be self, and I was the ever. So I'm doing it. And she said, okay, let's go for it. And, it took about 5 minutes out on the field the first day to regret having made that decision. Once I saw some of the athletes running around there, and I said, oh, we got some work to do, but we're going to get this thing done. I have to tell you this one story. This is a very private story, but you might enjoy. So when I was at Notre Dame, my children went to St. Joseph's High School, which was right across the street from Notre Dame. I lived a mile from the campus. I was very used to having all my children around me, and by me leaving and coming to LSU, my two daughters one was going to go to Notre Dame and one was at Ball State. My oldest, my son Nick, had just graduated, but he was taking a job back at Notre Dame. So by me taking the job at LSU, it was like sending 3 of my children away for the first time in my life, that they weren't right around me. So when I had to take my 2 daughters to the New Orleans airport in August to fly back to school, I'm not ashamed to tell you, I cried the entire drive back from New Orleans to Baton Rouge. And I went to our apartment that we were having at the time, instead of going straight to the office. And I sat on the chair, and I'm got my eyes are all welled up from crying. And I said to my wife, I said, what did I do? I fragmented our family because of my desire to want to, see how good I am as a coach, And she goes, yeah, well, you better make it work because you made the decision.
That's right. No looking back now.
No. She says there's no looking back now, so you better stiffen up that back to work.
Well,
And she was right.
well,
So
obviously, it worked. National champion, tons of wins, Louisiana Sports Hall of Famer, and so many memories and friendships and everything you guys have made. And congratulations, Coach, on your career. Thanks so much for taking time today and giving us some insight on these wonderful stories about your lifelong experiences with Coach Skip Bertman. We'll visit with you soon, Coach.
Okay, sounds good, Ronnie.
All right,
Tommy, take care.
all righty. There's Coach Paul Maneri, probably headed to a golf match sometime today or tomorrow. You can find him over at University Club, playing a little 13 over there all the time. All right, we are over here at the Bruley Walk-Ons. We'll take a break. When we come back, Dan Canterbury. Paul Maneri's known Skip Bertman since he was 7 years old. Dan Canterbury's known Coach Bertman since he was 18 years old, but yet no one has spent more time with them outside of Sandy Bertman than Dan Canterbury. We'll visit with him next. Blair Barbier at 11:30, Joel Davis at 11:45. Sports Shorts Radio on ESPN Lake Charles, Lafayette, and Baton Rouge.
is Sports Shorts Radio.
Welcome back, everyone. Ronnie Rance, Tommy Krysan. We are over here at the Bruley Walk-Ons. I'm having a lemon butter chicken with a little mashed potatoes and broccoli. Very good stuff. Listen, I think I'm a shrimp connoisseur. Feel like Bubba Gump and I are brothers. I'm telling you that the fried shrimp is fantastic at walk-ons. Pretty consistent across the board. Any walk-ons you go to, but Bruley Walk-ons is our favorite. So get the fried shrimp if you're a shrimp lover, either on a po' boy or on the side or whatever. And of course, the bread pudding. Oh my goodness! I mean, remember the crispy used to be Krispy Kreme bread pudding. You know, I don't know if Krispy Kreme pulled back their name, image, and likeness or whatever, but the bread pudding is fantastic. TK, we're chasing down.
We're efforting to try to get Dan
chasing down Dan
Canterbury.
Canterbury. We'll get with him here in just a minute.
Yeah, he's probably taking some River of Life capsules right now. You know, Ronnie, Team Sports Shorts, you and I and Hunter and Derry Beckwith and Joel and everybody's fans of the River of Life capsules, the all natural, no side effects, nothing but positive stuff, mental clarity, relieve stress, everything. I took my 2 River of Life capsules this morning. I'm feeling great. Because of that, I've been taking them for over 2.5 years now, and I know you're a big fan too, Ronnie.
Yeah, you know, Patrick Scallon and the gang over at Genesis Medical. It's on Suma, right by Our Lady of the Lake Hospital. If you have any questions, you can go to riveroflifecapsules.com. That's riveroflifecapsules.com. Order a bottle today, or you can give them a call, and they can tell you all about it. It's all natural ingredients, and you know, if you're taking it over-the-counter supplements for arthritis or pain or swelling in your joints or whatever, if you're that guy that gets up from the sofa during the commercials and you make that noise because it hurts to stand up when you've been in that recliner, you need a little River of Life capsules, and it'll help you. And of course, Derry Beckwith, who joins us during football season this year, he takes them when he's working the sidelines as a TV reporter for the LHSA network. So you should too. That's riveroflifecapsules.com. Joining us now is another of our special guests that we have today. We appreciate Paul Maneri, who joined us last segment, and now a guy who has known Skip Bertman pretty much all his life. Played for him, coached with him. And Miami won a national championship there in the early 80s, and then 5 national championships on the staff at LSU. Dan Canterbury joins us. What's up, Cano? How are you, buddy?
It's better today than yesterday. Yesterday was a tough day for everybody. And today it kind of all sinks in and you just kind of reflect back. And we're all very blessed, as you know, that we were all with Skip. And, I'm looking forward to the celebration of life that'll come up. And I think everybody's in a good place right now.
Yeah, Tommy Krysan here joining us as well. TK in the house over here at the Bruley Walk-Ons. I saw you on some of the shows. Obviously, much like many of us, very emotional day yesterday.
Yeah.
But I choose today to kind of be happy, positive, tell some funny stories. I mean, a guy, he won, right? He won at life. I mean, 88 years old. He packed in I think enough life for 2 people.
Oh gosh, yeah.
I mean, but I want to go back to I asked Paul Maneri this question. I'm gonna ask you. I asked Paul when was the first time he met Skip Bertman, and he said he was 7 years old when Skip Bertman brought Mickey Mantle to a camp. And when was the first time that you remember meeting Skip Bertman?
It's funny, we had this conversation about a week ago. We had lunch, and then after lunch, I stayed at his house, and got one of those Skip talks for about an hour and a half where you talked about life, which is what I'll miss the most. But I was an 18-year-old kid, just turned 18, from nowhere, New York. Hopped on a plane to go to the University of Miami as a walk-on, and landed. Found my way to the campus. I was really the girl from Ames, Iowa. Found my way to get registered. Found the dorm. Did it all on my own. Didn't need a coach.
Right.
Found my way to the baseball office. Signed up for walk-on tryouts. And the first day I went out there, and believe it or not, Skip's running walk-ons. It was his second year as the assistant coach. He wasn't the associate head coach yet. And so I'm stretching in the outfield, and he goes, "Ooh, Millerton, New York." It's like, how did you know that? Like, here's these people. But anyway, we were talking, and so I met him at 18 years old. And Ronnie, I swear to God, this is the truth. I met him at 18 years old. I'm trying out for the team and, working out. And I met him and Coach Frazier. And I went there as a communications major. That was actually academically, that's what I wanted to do. And 2 days into walk-on tryouts, I switched my major. I said, I want to coach like these guys. This is too god darn cool.
That's awesome.
And I just thought it was the greatest. And from that moment on, he said, hey, I kept you. You were a left-handed guy that could throw strikes. You probably weren't getting anybody out, but you could throw BP.
And look,
he goes, and you were a good kid, and there was something about you. He goes, I just knew, I could use you.
Probably weren't going to get anybody out. I love that.
And, he always says the story, he goes, Cano, people say, walk-on trials. He goes, you weren't even a walk-on. You were a limp-on. I mean.
What's funny is that the last, say, 20 years of his life, he took on this persona and perception by the public, as well as somewhat in his own mind, that he was this grandfatherly, figure. Like when we would tell the stories where he was sometimes brutally honest.
You're embellishing.
Yeah,
that didn't
really
happen.
true.
Yeah, he didn't want to believe it, and I'm like, no, Coach, it happened exactly like that. He's like, Rance is so full of it. He exaggerates. I mean, come on, And I'm like, no, Coach, that's really how it went down. But so we know that he will be very truthful. But Cano did become one of the all-time great BP pitchers. I will tell you that. So. Your time at Miami, it's kind of, we know through the show Hold the Rope, the documentary that Mark Kinnerman did, that he was the on-field guy at Miami. Ron Frazier was the off-field guy. Skip obviously learned a lot from Frazier about how to be P.T. Barnum and promote and fundraise and all the things. And then when he got to LSU, he did it all himself. When you were coaching high school baseball back in Miami, Coach Rick Green in high school, when did that phone call, right? Randy Davis is the pitching coach. He leaves to go to South Carolina to be an assistant coach, which was an upgrade in salary and position for him. And so the position becomes open for you to come to Baton Rouge. What is that conversation like, and how did that all go down? We lost him.
I'm not hearing him.
Okay.
Yep.
Let's see if we can't get him back on the phone. We're visiting with Dan Canterbury right there. I can tell you that Randy Davis was a well-liked pitching coach for LSU for a couple of seasons. And in the fall of 91, Randy left to go to South Carolina kind of abruptly, right? I mean, most coaching changes don't take place, in the fall. And then all of a sudden now here comes Dan Canterbury in January of 1991 in at the halfway point of the season. Cano, are you back with us?
Not yet. We're working on that.
Okay.
Braxton's doing a great job on the board today. He's calling him back.
Okay. We had a little drop right there by Cano. We'll hope to get him back on it. So people don't realize that the behind-the-scenes story.
I'm back.
Now we got Cano back with us. Okay.
You were talking about the P.T. Barnum and him and Frazier at Miami.
Yeah, so and I wanted to transition to, he got to run his own shop. He learned from Ron off the field, and then now Skip does in the mid-'80s to Baton Rouge to run his own shop. But for you personally, you got into high school coaching, and you coached Rick Green in high school, and you end up getting a phone call in the fall of 1990 when Randy Davis sort of abruptly that fall left to go with June Raines over to South Carolina to be head assistant and pitching coach and all that, which was an upgrade in his career. What is that conversation like where, between you and Skip? How did he get you out of high school to come to Baton Rouge all of a sudden?
You want me to give you the whole story? You got to,
Yeah,
I'll condense it as best I can. It's beautiful. Okay, I'm working for Ron and Skip, and I know Skip's leaving, because of course I'm working in the office. And at that time he was South Alabama, Vanderbilt, and LSU wanted him. Now Skip always wanted to be the head coach at Miami, and Frazier was always wanted to be the AD because he was tired of coaching. And he was lucky because he had Skip did all the coaching. Let's just call it what it was. Okay, God bless Frazier. So anyway, he gets the job at LSU, and we're working camp, and hey, Canner, you help me load up and everything. And so finally, I know he's getting a job at LSU. He calls me in the office, Cano, it's time to talk. And I'm thinking, this is it. Ronnie, I'm 23 years old. I got a freaking job at LSU. I've been working my butt off. I love Skip. He loves me. This is great. He brings me, listen, Cano, I'm going to LSU to be the head coach. Oh, great, coach. Listen, you're not coming. Just like that. And, my heart just bombs out. And you're not coming. But wait a minute. Hold it. Listen. You're going to be the assistant coach and PE teacher at Southwest High School. One of my former coaches, the head coach there. You got a full-time job. With your master's, you're going to make $42,000 a year. See, Smoke Laval's going to be the assistant. He's going to make $11,500 at LSU, and I'm going to make $30,000.
Right.
He goes, I can't afford. Like you can't come.
Right.
I mean, but the way he dropped the bomb,
right.
And then he explained why.
Right.
Okay, so anyway, now we fast forward. So I'm coaching at Gables High, and I had gone through a divorce. And so I say to my people, I pay for this. Well, I need to work summer school full time because you're a teacher, you don't have to work in the summer. And so my AD and everything says, sure, yeah, you got it, coach, no problem. We got your back, we love you. And so summer comes, and all of a sudden it's just like you get a half a day of summer school. I said, guys, I banked on it. What happened? And you can understand this. Well, the football coaches. Oh, okay, football, we got it. Okay, okay. So I said, well, what about me working a full day for half the summer? Can we do that? And I said, sure. So I worked the month of June. I pick up the phone. I call Skip. And at the time, Mike Archer, who was like my big brother at Miami, is the football coach. So I call up and I say, Skip, don't you have some camps coming up? I get the summer. Oh, yeah, camp's in July. I said, you got any room for you? Of course. Come on up. Archer and I will take care of you, the whole thing. You stay with me. I got overnight camps. So I come up and I do the camp. And, I'd done the camps for him down in Miami. So when I'm doing the camps, he's almost like showing me off because I knew everything that he wanted to do.
Right.
And I knew what to do. And so I go up there and it was like, holy shit, this guy is good.
Right.
But I had been trained, and the other people were still being trained. So anyway, fast forward, I'm getting ready to leave. 3 weeks go through. And I sit, it's Sunday and I'm leaving to drive back to Miami. I sit at the table and Skip goes, Canner, you like it here, don't you? Yeah, coach, it's a great place. Yeah, everybody likes you here. You fit in pretty good. Listen, next guy out, you're in. I said, what? He goes, put your house on the market. I'll call you the next guy that leaves. You're the next guy in. Okay, be safe.
Wow.
And then I get the call from Skip. I'm watching LSU play football, and I'm begging and praying that Archer's going to win.
Right.
And Skip calls up. He goes, so how's the house going? I say, Coach, tough market here. It's a tough market. He says, well, listen, you got to sell the thing. You got a pencil? Okay, you're going to be here on the 20th of December, and pull your, what a stadium, pull your car and everything in, your U-Haul, and then just take the car and drive to my house, and I'll meet you there. Okay. He calls me on the 19th. Everything good with the house? Yeah, Coach, I just closed on. I'm moving my stuff. Okay, I'll see you.
Wow.
That was my job interview. I landed, drove to his house. It's about 8 o'clock at night. He comes out of his office with the bathrobe, the gym shorts, slippers. And he goes, oh, good. And he brings me in and he goes, listen, we got camp coming up. I got A-League over here, 26 guys. We got 32 guys over here. What should we do here? What do you think? Well, Coach, I would do this and this. Okay, well, good. Listen, tomorrow, 8 o'clock, you'll be here. Don't worry about your house. I'll get people to move the stuff. I'll see you tomorrow. Not like, how was the trip? Or anything.
Yeah. Let's get right to it. Yeah,
Yeah, I just drove like 15 hours in a U-Haul with a dog and everything I own in the back of me. Yeah. But that was Skip. Like, there was never any talk how much you're going to make or whatever. You just going to work for Skip. What the job was, it's kind of like Bill Belichick, when you see the thing. They hired the slappies in Bill Belichick's thing. What's your job? I don't know.
Right.
You just, there was no, the job is whatever needs to be done. You're the guy that does it. Yeah. And I tell you what, it's the best decision I ever made, but I don't think I ever made a decision. It's more like blind faith. And I'm glad I did it. What a life. What a life he gave me.
Cano,
I mean, unbelievable.
thanks for the stories, man. Thanks for the time. I got Blair Barbier coming up next, and I know he was like a father to you. I know no one spent more time with him than you did. It's outside of his marriage, and I look forward to the next time we get together and tell all a bunch of stories. But I appreciate the time, my friend.
All right, thanks, guys. Good luck.
All right, Dan Canterbury right there. Cano, as he's affectionately called, 6 national championship rings. He's got all 6 as an assistant with Skip Bertman, 5 at LSU and 1 in Miami. Yeah, he's got an operation over in the North Shore called 6 Rings, an indoor hitting facility over there. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, one of the all-time LSU greats, Blair Barbier, 2-time national champion, joins us next. Don't go anywhere. Sports Shorts will continue live from the Bruley Walk-Ons right after this.
Now back to Sports Shorts Radio.
Welcome back, everyone. Ronnie Rance, Tommy Krysan. We're over here at the Bruley Walk-Ons. Doors open at Bruley Walk-Ons 11 o'clock, 7 days a week. Fantastic lunch. I'm having a lemon butter chicken over here. They got the world-famous bread pudding, and I'll be getting that for dessert. And always don't sleep on the fried shrimp at the Bruley Walk-Ons. Joining us now is the captain of the 2000 National Championship team, 2-time national champion, and favorite player ever to play for Skip Bertman, or at least largely because he bought more season tickets than anyone.
The Barbier
in
family.
history. Between the Barbiers and the Blanchards, I mean, it's unbelievable the number of tickets they bought. Blair Barbier joins us. What's up, my friend?
How you doing, guys? Thanks for having me on, man.
So we've had Paul Maneri on today, Brett McCabe. We just had Dan Canterbury and others, Lynn Rollins. When was the first time you met Skip Bertman? Do you remember?
I do. Recruiting would have been a phone call my sophomore year in high school, basically, and from there on, it's kind of grown from there, gotten better and better all the way through these years. Man, it's just been amazing. Tough day, certainly yesterday. The good memories are kind of coming back and taking hold. I mean, there's so many of them as you guys know. So it's been tough, but we're getting there.
So when somebody asks you about him, and you played 4 years for him and played started just every game you in your LSU career, where's the best way you describe him to people?
My favorite thing was, like, you think you go to college, or I thought, going to go to college and it's going to be this unbelievable. They're going to teach me a new way to hold the bat, new way to throw it or catch it or something crazy like that. But what we ultimately got was this just ongoing tutorial about, how successful people went about their business, how they thought about it, what the work ethic was like. And it had to do way more with the items between the ears as opposed to some of the physical stuff. Naturally, we did all of those things. Have to put the work in there. But the thing that I take with me the most is all the mental work that he put in, whether it be the motivation and, just all the concepts that are sort of famous, that he's made famous, at least around here, that he put into the program. But a lot of them had to do with really in between the ears and less about the physical parts of it.
Yeah, it's interesting. We had Brett McCabe on, who, of course, is one of the all-time great sports psychologists in the country, and he works with Alabama Athletics and 9 PGA golfers and this Milwaukee Brewers, etc. And he's now, and he said the two greatest coaches, right? Nick Saban and Skip Bertman are both very similar in the fact that it's so mental for them. They're very similar in their approach. They're very similar in their beliefs and their processes or the system. And and I guess it's not a coincidence that they both sort of operate the same way.
I couldn't agree more. And I really think when you're getting down to winning championships, everybody being on the same page matters, and especially when it's not going well. Right, whether that's throughout the season or whether it's in an individual game. When you look at Coach Saban on the sidelines, I'm assuming same way we did in the dugout. We were already kind of prepared for how we should be thinking. Late in the game, like we knew every day in America, there's a team that's going to come back. Maybe it's us today, right? Like we always had those sorts of feelings in there that had less to do about how we were going to hit or pitch or this, that, or the other, but how we should be thinking and how we should be working to get what it is that we want out of that game. I think that's a big deal, but it's all of the mental work. It's all of those things that they did that allowed us to be calm in those moments, understand how we should be processing this information and move forward.
Your relationship, kind of like mine and Doug's and others, changes, right? You go from a player-coach relationship to later a mentor, father figure, etc. How did your relationship grow and change over the last 20 years? And how did you implement Coach Bertman in your life?
Yeah, the conversations, right? You get there and it's about baseball, and that's what a lot of it's about. We're talking a lot of baseball, and of course, he's teaching us those concepts and those life lessons while we're there to sort of help make us a better person, eventually, hopefully a better baseball player. And those same conversations just sort of continued, right? They were less and less about baseball, and then more about, what are you going to do after baseball? And then when your family comes, what's, the family aspect of things, and then the business aspect of things. But it was a lot of the same conversations. He would have just adapted them to the current situation, which was amazing. And today, I mean, my 3 girls, the wife, it's with me, and it's implemented, or I'm trying to implement those same sorts of concepts really throughout my life.
I was telling Tommy Chrysan, every conversation I ever had with him about business, or if it was a new business or something different, and he'd want to know all about it, right? Like, he
Always.
it doesn't matter what it was, or whether you're an attorney or a coach or, selling snowballs, it didn't matter. He wanted to know the nuts and bolts of it, and then inevitably land the plane at, I mean, are you making any money doing that? I mean, like, you're making some money on that, right? I mean, like, you want to know,
No doubt about it. And the same thing, we know people talk about how good he was at anticipating what was going to happen. And so that was in baseball, but I mean, so many conversations in business or something where you're telling him something and he sniffs something out and you're like, oh, I hope he's not right about this one. But in the back of your mind, like, oh my goodness, he just let me down easy right there. Thanks, coach.
Is there a conversation or a moment in time that stands out for you that you had with Skip that you think back to whenever his name comes up?
I do. There's some personal ones, after national championship games that we all, that you have with him that certainly stick out. But I tell you, Ronnie, I mean, as time's gone on, we've been fortunate. We spend a lot of time with him, whether it be lunches or at his house. I mean, those are my favorite. I mean, there's several one-on-one times, or when we do it as a group, or, when Sandy kicks us out of the house because it's so late, it got way beyond the whole baseball thing. That was awesome, no doubt. But the man, as you know, became our friend, like you said, a mentor to us all, father figure like. So it really goes back to those memories when he was unfiltered, not on camera, and we're just being friends.
Yeah,
those are ones.
One of my favorites. One of the last LSU games this year, a big game at the end of the season. Me, Doug, and Skip watched the game together at his house, and it might have been the SC tournament, or I can't remember. It was a road game and it was a big game, and I got there late, but he didn't start the game. He waited. He DVR'd it. He waited till I got there, and then he couldn't work the remote. We had to work the remote. Couldn't go. How did we get to? He couldn't get through the commercials, so then we had to watch all the commercials because he couldn't get the remote right. I mean, it was unbelievable. But anyway, he's sitting there, got the blanket wrapped around him, got the headphones on so he can hear the announcers, but then he'd take the headphones off and he'd want to talk in between every inning and break it down, and that was just awesome. It was a fantastic.
It is. It's the best. My man, we got to get the remote from him. That just didn't, that wasn't his cup of tea.
It was
a lot of positives.
Yeah.
He's not a remote worker.
Yeah.
You might miss the game because he was awesome, right? He would pause it and wait for you. And you're like, oh man, this is awesome. You go in, but we can't work it, and now we missed 6 innings.
Yeah, it turned a 3-hour game to a 4 because of the remote.
Right.
All right, we're running a little late. I'm gonna let you go, Blair. I just wanted a couple minutes of your time, man, for some thoughts. I appreciate you joining us in this tough weekend.
Yeah, it is. Thanks for having me, guys. All the best.
All right, Blair Barbier right there with some good Skip stories. We'll take a break. Final segment when we come back. A guy who didn't play for Skip Bertman but always has interesting takes, and We'll talk with Joel Davis next, live from Woodhaven Furniture Company. We'll talk to JD the Hog. Don't go anywhere. Sports Shorts will continue on from Bruley Walk-Ons.
Welcome back to Sports Shorts Radio.
Ronnie Rance here with you at the Bruley Walk-Ons. Last segment, a real quick one. We got Joel Davis joining us from Wooden Haven Furniture Company in Baton Rouge. JD the Hog, who once made his high school baseball team at St. Paul, but then quit before practice began, joins us. And Joel, I just want to get some quick thoughts, man, from you on what Skip Bertman either meant to you or a story about you maybe interacting with him.
Well, Ronnie, I mean, the majority of the time that I spent with Skip Bertman was when I spent time with you, because you are an extension of Skip Bertman. I think that, I mean, I've spent more time with Skip Bertman than most people that knew him closely because of you, right? Because of the amount of time I've spent with you. So, yeah, like, look, man, this guy, obviously a legend, somebody that's meant so much to so many people, and prayers out to everybody. Ronnie, I think I texted you first thing yesterday morning, and, you know, condolences to you. And, you know, you guys shared a birthday. I mean, he is 100% just, I know how much he meant to you, right? So I've heard all the stories. I heard how he taught. I heard how he coached. And, I mean, the guy is just so awesome, man. I mean, the way he's able to connect with people and to get the best out of people, right? And that's what we can all hope to be as far as coaching is concerned. I mean, I coach fundraisers, right? I coach coaches on how to be great fundraising coaches. I mean, not all of them are very good at it, right? Some of them are very good at it. Some of them are not. At the end of the day, your job is to get the most out of people. And I think that he clearly was able to do that with his players and the biggest moments too, right? To simplify the moment, to make people not stressed, to eliminate the aspect of stress, and to make it feel like it's just another game, but it's not another game, right? And I wish I would have had time with him. I think I even told you that in the text. I wish I would have known him better.
Yeah.
Because I think we could all be better human beings just by knowing that guy.
You as a LSU fan all your life, do you remember, you know, like the national championship run that he was on? You at the Brown Door in Hammond watching the game? Like, do we have a memory of any of those national championships of where you were?
Ron, I don't have a lot of memory of anything before my 30s, right?
That's beautiful.
I mean, it's just everything under 30 is kind of a blur, because I was going 90-0, and it was not to make money. That's the problem. That's why I don't really remember much.
By the way, he's not trying to be funny.
No, I know.
No, it's serious. It's a heart attack.
For real.
Serious.
Very little memory.
Very little memory.
He is a leader of a championship soccer team over in Indonesia, though. We brought it up.
Oh, well, not really. Just the financial sponsor and the village sponsor.
Yeah.
You know, I really didn't do much. I'm just hoisting the trophy, right? I'm just
Jerry Jones.
I'm the Ronnie Rance of the Baton Rouge Rougarou in 2025.
Except I carry ice chests and empty trash. But all right. So real quick, well, I got you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you 60 seconds.
Oh my gosh.
Jaden Daniels.
That's all.
I want you to give me your takeaway.
Oh man, embarrassing this week. Just so embarrassing, dude. This is not good for him. And at the end of the day, like, look, dude. I mean, I never would have imagined, like, the number 5 jersey. I never would have thought would have been. Look, you got to win championships for that kind of stuff, dude. Championships get your number retired, not jersey, not winning a Heisman Trophy, which is in my mind an individual type honor. It's an individual honor, the Heisman Trophy. You know, retiring your jersey is winning championships for your organization. It's bigger than just an individual award. Congratulations, you have a Heisman Trophy. You had an unbelievable year, but you didn't win a national championship.
9-3.
And I think that's the difference. Yeah, you didn't win a national championship, and you didn't win the big games. And were you an unbelievable football player? Yeah, I think it's bad for his brand. This is bad for his brand, dude.
All right.
Well, I mean, he's got a brand to protect.
We got to wrap it up. We'll get more into it next week when we have plenty of time with Joel.
For sure.
Appreciate your time, Joel. We're wrapping up over here at the Bruley Walk-Ons. For Tommy
Bye-bye.
Carlson, I'm Ronnie Rance. Every Saturday morning, 10 to noon, Sports Shorts Radio.